We continue now at the top of Daf Samach Dalet Amud Aleph in Meseches Gittin. This is Gittin Daf 64a. On the previous Amud, the Mishnah said that if a woman appoints a shliach lekabbalah to accept her get, she needs two sets of witnesses. One set of witnesses to testify that they saw that she appointed this individual as a shliach lekabbalah, and then you need another set of witnesses to testify that they saw the shliach lekabbalah receive the get. And the Mishnah had said that it could really be the same witnesses, meaning the same two witnesses who see her appoint the shliach can be the same two witnesses who see the receiving of the get. And the Mishnah now continues, or you could have separate witnesses, meaning to say one witness who's only by the Kabbalah, and one witness who only sees the appointing of the shliach, and then one witness who's by both, and so you end up that you have two witnesses by both. Rashi says, in other words, you have one unique witness by the appointing of the shliach l'kabbalah, one unique witness by the receiving of the get, and then one witness who's by both events, and that's how you have two witnesses. Again, Rashi says, shlishi shenasa eid bazu uvazu mitzdaref imam. In other words, you have a third witness who's a witness by both events, together with separate witnesses, one by the appointing of the shliach and one by the receiving of the get. And the Gemara says, Itmar, we have the following machlokas amoroim. Baal omer lepikadon u'shlish omer legerishin. Minamon. Let's say you have a situation where the husband says that he gave the get to a third party just to watch the get, not to actually receive the get in the form of a gerishin, but the shlish, the person, this third party that actually received the get, he said he was given the get for gerishin purposes. He was a shliach lekabbalah. Rashi says, Baal omer lepikadon get shenasan biyad shlish. Baal omer lepikadon nesativ biyadcha. The husband says that I gave it to you just to watch over the get. Shlish omer legerishin nasatali. And this third party says, no, you gave it to me for the purposes of divorce. Shayisi shlucha lekabbalah, because I was actually her shliach to be a shliach lekabbalah. V'niskarsha bekabbalasi, and she's divorced the moment I received the get. V'yish v'yisha yachad bo'ir. And Rashi notes over here that the man and the woman are in the same city, and that's important because otherwise, the husband, if he really wanted to divorce her, he really could have given it straight to the wife. She was in the same location, and that's why he's saying I gave it to the shlish, I gave it to the third party, and I didn't give it directly to the wife, clearly because I was giving it lepikadon. And the shlish says no, it was given legerishin. And so again, there's a machlokas amoroim. Rav Huna Amar Baal Nem. When Rav Huna says the husband is believed, meaning we believe she is not divorced, it was given lepikadon. Rav Chisda Amar Shlish Nemon, but Rav Chisda said the shlish is believed that it was for divorce purposes, and the wife is considered divorced. And the Gemara explains, Rav Huna Amar Baal Nem, when Rav Huna says the husband is believed, because if it was really true that he was giving it for gerishin purposes to the guy, so he should have given it to her. She was in the same city anyway, and therefore Rav Huna says it makes more sense what the husband is saying. The husband is believed to say that he was just giving it lepikadon. But Rav Chisda Amar Shlish Nemon, but Rav Chisda says no, the third party is believed, because just by giving him the get, you are putting all your trust in that third party, and whatever the third party says is automatically believed. And Rashi says, just by giving it over, by putting it into his hands, that gives the shlish ne'emonos. And the Gemara continues, Meseches Rav Abba asks the following question from a Bryce, and this is from the Tosefta. The Tosefta says, Hodoas Baldin Kameo Edim Dami. In general, when a person admits to something, that's like 100 witnesses. Ushlish Namon Mishnehem. But a third party is believed from both parties. Keitzad, how so? Ze Omer Kach v'Ze Omer Kach. Let's say this party says this, and another party says that. Shlish Namon. The third party, that person in the middle, he is believed. And so over here you see from this Tosefta, it sounds like the Shlish is believed, like Rav Chisda said. And the Gemara says, Shani Mama, no, it's different by money. It could be that by monetary cases, there's more ne'emonos for the shlish, the esyahiv lemechila, because money is something that can be forgiven. And the fact that the person is able to forgive the money, essentially give away the money, so that act shows that he can give over all the power to the shlish. Rashi explains this, it's something that can be forgiven. When it comes to something that has to do with money, let's say someone owes money to somebody else, the person can forgive the debt. And so therefore, in such a case, hilkach shlish nemon. Therefore, just like a person can forgive something when it comes to money, so too the shlish is believed. The kevan she'emino umasar biyado, since the person trusted that third party and gave him over the shtar, or gave him over whatever it was, nisratza b'havtachaso olav limchol al mamona. What he's essentially saying is, I trust you, I forgive all of my money, we're going to trust whatever you say, ulahamin kol mashayomer, whatever the shlish says is going to be trusted. Aval b'milsa di surah ein biyado lahamin. It could be something that's not money related, something that has to do with Isser, so he's not able to give over all of the trust to the shlish, and that's why it's not necessarily a proof from this Tosefta, which is talking about money. But the Gemara continues, Vatanya, but we also learned in a brayso, v'chein legitin. It says this halacha, that the shlish is nemon, it says explicitly, is true by Gitin, so it seems to be true by Gerishin as well. And the Gemara says to that, Gitei Mammon, the word Gitin doesn't have to be Gerishin. It could be documents that are money related. Vatanya v'chein l'shtaros, but then doesn't it say in another brayso the same is true by shtaros? So shtaros is monetary, so Gitin sounds like it's not monetary. And the Gemara answers to that, Midi Gabe Hadaditanya, the two braysos aren't next to each other. Even though they say different words, they mean the exact same thing. In other words, v'chein legitin means gitei mammon, v'chein l'shtaros also means shtaros of mammon, and they're using different terminologies because the two braysos are not next to one another, so they're not meant to be learning what gitin means from the context of the word shtaros, and therefore since they're independent, they can be using different words, and again, there's no proof when it comes to Gerishin. And Rashi explains, Gitei Mammon she'ein get el lashon shtar, the word get could be a document. Midi gabe hadaditanya, the two braysos are not next to one another. V'chein legitin, v'chein l'shtaros, meaning it doesn't say v'chein legitin, v'chein l'shtaros right next to each other, in which case we would say that they mean separate things. To name them midahal shtaros, the mammon kamaisa legitei nashim. Then you would say, since the word shtaros means money, so the first word gitin means gitei nashim. Hani treta noininu travayu, but mamanayri, really these braysos are not connected, and they were both saying the exact same thing. They're both talking about documents related to money, and again, saying in situations related to money, the shlish is going to be trusted. And the Gemara continues to Nan. We learned in our Mishnah, Ha'isha she'amra hiskaveli giti. If the wife says she appoints a shlich l'kabbalah to receive her get, tzricha shtei kitei edem. Again, the Mishnah said she needs to produce two sets of witnesses. Shnayim sheyomru b'fanenu amra, two witnesses that say that we saw her appoint the shlich l'kabbalah. Ushnayim sheyomru b'fanenu kibel v'kara, and then two witnesses who say that in front of us the shlich l'kabbalah accepted the get and tore it up. And so the Gemara says, V'yamai, but why is that the case? Why does she need witnesses to prove she's divorced? Lehemne l'shlish, why can't we just trust the shlish? If we say, as Rav Chisda said, that the shlish is believed, so let's just trust the shlish that she's divorced. But the Gemara says to that, in this case, we said in the Mishnah that the get was torn up. He doesn't have a whole get in his hand, and therefore he isn't believed in our case. That's why in our Mishnah, so we need to have witnesses. But the Gemara says, Teinach Amra, so that makes sense that we need witnesses to say that she appointed the shlish. But Kibel Lamali, why do we need witnesses to say that he received the get? He still has in his possession the torn up get, so that should be a raya that he received the get. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabba says, Hamoni Rebbe Lozeri, who's the author of our Mishnah? It's Rebbe Lozer, to Amar Eidei Mesira Karti, who says, Eidei Mesira Karti, and therefore it's not enough just that he received the get, we have to know that he received the get, and there were Eidim Mesira, they were Eidim that were present. And Rashi explains, V'amai boy Eidim Klal, why do we need witnesses at all? Lo b'kabola, v'lo b'amira, we shouldn't need witnesses by the receiving of the get, and we shouldn't need witnesses that she appointed him the shliach l'kabola. Ela b'amirosu b'lvad lehemne do hemne bal, we should say that his statement alone, through that alone we trust him, because the husband trusted him to give him the get. And the Gemara answered me, he can't even show us the get right now. If he could show us the get, then we would believe him. But he tore up the get. Now, even though the torn get is present in his hand, b'faneinu, in front of us, ein shlish elim ken hashlishas biyado. You're only considered a shlish with ne'monis if you have the get whole, if he has possession of the get whole in his hand. Why? Demigo di boy have a ovid bay, because the whole reason a shlish is believed is that he could do with the get exactly what he's claiming. If he had a whole get, he could have just given it to the wife and then she'd be divorced. So the fact that he's claiming that he's a shliach l'kabbalah, he's believed. He's believed because he can do what he's saying. What he's saying is true. Ne'mon nami alamiraso, he's believed to say what happened because he could do something with this get. Aval zeh shekar, but once it's torn up, ein biyado l'mosar biyado, he can't give it to her anyway. There's nothing he can do with it, and therefore he loses his ne'monis. But then the Gemara said, Teinach amra kibel lamali, but still, why do you need witnesses by the receiving of the get? Lasuy edim sharum mekablo miyad abal. Why do we need witnesses to say that they saw him receiving it from the husband? Harihu biyado v'faneinu v'avade kibli. We see he has the torn get in his hand. Clearly he received it. And the Gemara said to that, Rebbe Lozer, our Mishnah is Rebbe Lozer, Damar ein get kosher below edim mesira. Rebbe Lozer says you need to have edim mesira. It's not enough just to know that he received the get. We have to know that he received the get with edim mesira, with witnesses present who saw the get given over to him. And the Gemara continues, Kara lamali, so why is it in the Mishnah that he had to tear up the get at all? Why did he tear it up? Rashi says, Kara lamali, kalamar lamali lemikre. What's the reason for tearing up the get? The Mishnah said he receives the get and then he tears it up. And to that the Gemara says, Amar Rav Yehuda Marav. Rav Yehuda says that Rav says, B'shas hashmad shanu. This Mishnah was taught at the time of the destruction. Rashi says, Shas kezeres hashmad have shegazra ala mitzvahs. The government, the non-Jewish government, had made a decree against mitzvahs, and therefore it was necessary at that point in time in history to tear up the Gitin, so they shouldn't see that we're observing these mitzvahs. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabba says, Umoda Rav Huna admits, meaning Rav Huna, who normally says the husband is believed over the shlish, he admits, Di Amra Ihi Lididi Amar Li Shlish de Lagerish and Yahavi Nehili, that let's say she says, meaning the wife says that the shlish told me that it was given for Gerishin purposes, so then Mehemna, then she would be believed. Even though when the shlish says it was given to him for Gerishin purposes, he's not believed against the husband, but if she says that the shlish told her that's how it was given to him, then she is believed. But the Gemara immediately questions this. Mi'iko midi the shlish gufei lo mehemen vi mehemen. Is there such a scenario where the shlish himself is not believed, and now she's believed just by saying the shlish told her the exact same thing? Ella, rather, the Gemara says what it means. What Rava means is as follows: Iyamra kamoi didi legerish and yahavin nehile. If she says in front of me, I saw that it was given to him for gerish purposes, mehemna, then she is believed. Migo di bayamra lidido yahavin nehile bal, because she could have said that it was given directly to her. That's a claim she could have made, and it would have been believed. And therefore, since she could have said that, she's believed in this scenario as well. And the Gemara continues, Baal Amar Legerishin. Let's say the husband says he gave it to the third party to deliver it to her for Gerishin purposes. Ushlish Amar Legerishin, and the Shlish also says it was given to him for Gerishin purposes. V'hi Omeres Nasan Livavet, and she says indeed it was given to her, but it was lost. And the Gemara says, Amar Rav Yochanan says, have a davar shebe'erva. This is a situation involving arayis. Ve'in davar shebe'erva pachos mishnayim. You can't rule in a situation of arayis with less than two witnesses, and therefore in this case she would not be considered divorced. But the Gemara says, V'yamai, why is that the case? First of all, v'lehemne l'shlish. Why don't we believe the third party? This shlish is saying that he gave it to her for divorce purposes. We should believe him. And the Gemara says to that, he's not holding the get anymore. Again, we said the whole ne'emanus of a shlish is because he's holding the document. Here he doesn't have the document, therefore he's not trusted. But the Gemara continues, v'lehemne l'bal. Why don't we believe the husband? He says that he gave it over for divorce purposes. The Amar Rav Chia bar Avin, Amar Rav Yochanan, because Rav Chia bar Avin says that Rav Yochanan says, Baal Shamar Gerashti es Ishtinam, and if a husband says, I divorced my wife, he's believed. And the Gemara says to that, Mikamar Gerashti, but he's not saying over here, I divorced. He's saying, I gave it to the shliach to give to her. And therefore, he's not even claiming she was divorced yet, so we can't really believe the husband. But the Gemara says, V'leima chazaka shliach osa shlichusa, but why don't we say that there's a chazaka, there's a general presumption that a shliach does fulfill a shlichus. And therefore, if we believe that the husband gave it to the shliach, and we have a chazaka that the shliach fulfills his shlichus, we should say she's divorced. The Yomer Rabbi Yitzchak, because Rabbi Yitzchak says, Ha'omer l'shlucha, if someone says to his shliach, Tzei v'kadesh li isha stam, he says, go on and mekadesh some woman on my behalf, marry me to some woman. V'mei shlucha, and then the shliach dies. Also, so we have no idea who he's married to. We assume that somebody accepted this kiddushin, and therefore he becomes prohibited from all women in the world, because all the women in the world may be related to his current wife. We can't identify his current wife, and the reason for that is chazaka shliach. We have a chazaka. There's a presumption that the shliach did his shlichus, that he did marry this individual off to somebody, but we can't identify who this person is. And Rashi explains, "V'neimed the chazaka shliach kevan de bal nemon de masrei lahayal menas legarsha." Since the husband is believed to say that he gave it to the shliach on the condition to divorce her, neima shachazaka shashliach osa shlichusa. We should say there's a presumption the shliach actually did that. And Rashi continues, "Asur b'chol hanoshim." He's asur to all women in the world. In this case, where the shliach gave the kiddushin to someone and we don't know who, shemazu krovas arusasu, because maybe this particular woman, any woman in the world, might be the relative of his arusa. Shekidash lo shlucho he imkein chazar shlucho lomarlo plonis kidashi lach. The only way this doesn't happen is if the shliach is able to return and say, "This is the woman that I gave the kiddushin to." Oh lo kidashi l'chashum yishur. I didn't do any kiddushin. But if the shliach died, so now we have no idea who the woman was, and therefore he becomes usher to all women in the world. We will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Samech Dalid Amud Beis.